Strange Studies of Strange Stories.
Know, O Prince, that between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of, when shining kingdoms lay spread across the world like blue mantles beneath the stars. Nemedia, Ophir, Brithunia, Hyperborea, Zamora, with its dark-haired women and towers of spider-haunted mystery. Zingara, with its chivalry. Koth, that bordered on the pastoral lands of Shem. Stygia, with its shadow-guarded tombs. Hyrcania, whose riders wore steel and silk and gold. But the proudest kingdom of the world was Aquilonia, reigning supreme in the dreaming west. Hither came Conan, the Cimmerian. Black-haired, sullen-eyed, sword in hand. A thief, a reaver, a slayer, with gigantic melancholies and gigantic mirth, to tread the jeweled thrones of the earth under his sandaled feet. The Nemedian Chronicles.
My muscles are rippling. My tendons are taut. My blade is unsheathed. Do you know what that means?
That could actually mean a couple of things, but in the context of this podcast, that means it is Thulai!
Yeah!
A month of sword and sorcery here on Strange Studies of Strange Stories. I'm Chad Pfeiffer.
And I'm Chris Lackey. This week we are covering the very first Conan story, The Phoenix on the Sword by Robert E. Howard. But Chad and I are not alone. We have blown the battle horn, and from the Cimmerian north, a barbarian of panther-like grace and tiger-like strength strides across the plains to join us. None other than Kenneth Hite.
Whoa. Welcome, Ken. It's been a while.
Hey, it has been a while. Delighted to return.
Today we are also joined by reader Travis Bedard.
Oh.
He was with us last July for The Sword of Spartacus and earlier this year for Howard's Delcarte's Cat. So he has proven his thews to be both cat-like and wolfish. Travis, as usual, is killing it in lots of local Madison productions. He actually will be doing a staged reading of Much Ado About Nothing this month. Reading Benedict, and our other star reader, Heather Klinke, will be performing Beatrice.
Whoa.
So that's something locals may want to check out. I was planning on jealously menacing them with a sandbag from the rafters as they perform, phantom-like, but it's in a public park, so I'll probably just be standing on a picnic table glowering. Let me tell you something. That half mask looks cool when you're dressed for the opera, but when you're in cargo shorts... horrifying. But I'd like to make much ado about something, which are any and all projects you've been working on, Ken. What's been cooking in the Hite laboratory lately?
Well, in the Strange Studies space, we are putting the finishing touches as I speak on Trail of Cthulhu 2nd edition.
Yeah.
I joined you back when it was on BackerKit and we were doing the crowdfunding. Well, now the crowd has funded and we are in the process of saying, I don't like that character sheet to each other in various tones. So very, very close, very, very close to being done. I've done the index. I've done my niggling little copy edits. I've pushed my glasses up on my nose and said, actually, Necronomicon should be italicized a bunch of times.
Wow.
Oh, man.
And then obviously I've been doing Ken and Robin Talk About Stuff, my podcast, my own podcast with my own beloved partner, beloved Robin D. Laws.
Well, you're making me laugh talking about the disagreements over the character sheet and over the italicizing, because we're, of course, preparing for our BackerKit funding campaign for Strange Stories, the role-playing game.
Yes.
And I hate all this business about whether role-playing is hyphenated or 2 words. I'm just saying it's 1 word all the time. Where do you guys stand on that?
I believe we are a 1-word team as well. We are...
Yes.
If Trail had been our first role-playing game at Pelgrane, I think we probably would have hyphenated because I tried to sort of sneak as many Lovecraftian annoyances into the style guide as I could.
You have a point there, yeah.
Folks, if you have not signed up for our pre-launch, it is live right now. Sign up and you will be notified when the BackerKit campaign launches on July 21st.
Back to Conan. Last year we covered The Scarlet Citadel around this time, which was the second Conan story that Robert E. Howard published. And we talked about this first story because in both, Conan is middle-aged, he's a king.
Yes.
It's not how you usually see him.
This story, The Phoenix on the Sword, was first published in the December 1932 issue of Weird Tales. But it was actually originally a Cole story called By This Axe I Rule!
It was rejected by Farnsworth Wright, that version of it, and then edited and resubmitted. Robert E. Howard actually mentions the story in a letter to Lovecraft in April of 1932. He wrote, "I've been working on a new character, providing him with a new epic, the Hyborian Age, which men have forgotten, but which remains in classical names and distorted myths. Wright rejected most of the series, but I did sell him one, The Phoenix on the Sword, which deals with the adventures of King Conan the Cimmerian in the kingdom of Aquilonia." So Lovecraft, he knew who Conan was.
Yes, and he would get very, very stroppy with Howard for doing all the semi-fake names, the Stygia and Aquilonia and all of that. The names, that are sort of half real geography and half Hyborian pretend geography. Lovecraft was like, pick a side, man. Stop introducing things that make me, Howard P. Lovecraft, think about real history because you're not setting it in real history. And then he would sort of rant for a couple of pages and Howard would say, that's the point. Sorry.
Look, that opening really gets you excited for this world, I think. And I don't know why. It's just the quality of the writing, I suppose, because typically if I just was faced with a list of fictional lands, I wouldn't care that much. Mm-hmm. But I read that epigraph and I start getting pumped up.
Yeah.
I want to read this story.
And then we get, he's a reaver, he's a slayer, he's a thief.
Yeah.
He treads the jeweled thrones of the earth. It's like, yes, I'm ready for some jeweled throne treading.
Well, when were you first ready for this? I was curious because we haven't had you on Thulai before. This must be a genre you love.
I do love it. I love it so much. And I loved it when I was a kid. I don't even know if it was before I discovered Lovecraft, but it was around that same eon. My buddy Jeff had all of the great Lancer paperbacks, and it had the Frazetta cover art and the rest of it. And I just couldn't believe how good that stuff felt.
When people first get into Lovecraft or first get into Robert E. Howard, the person that gets to give them a gift of telling them that the worlds are connected, that's just such a moment in geek growing up. I see it even online. Like if there's a topic where somebody goes, I'm just starting to read Robert E. Howard. It's only a matter of comments before somebody jumps in. Did you know they were friends and that there's Lovecraftian monsters in these? What?
I think it was probably Chaosium that connected those for me. We didn't have nerds on the internet. You had to go hunt them free range in my time.
Yeah. Our story begins in a small room down a back alley in Aquilonia, where some wicked folks are plotting. One of them, Escalante, is planning to overthrow Conan, who is currently king.
As we recounted in the Scarlet Citadel last year, before Conan became the king, Aquilonia was ruled by the tyrant Numenides. Conan acquired the kingship from Numenides through a royal strangling.
I like the passive voice there. He acquired the kingship through a royal strangling. Someone was strangled. We don't know who, but it was royal. Anyway.
I don't want to accuse anybody of anything.
Conan go into a room. There is a royal strangling. Conan comes out with a crown on his head. We don't know. Who can say?
That's all I'm saying.
That's all we're saying.
This guy, Escalante, was once a count of Aquilonia, but he lost all of his power when Conan took over, so he's become an outlaw. And Escalante is served by a Stygian, and this is Thoth Amon, a sorcerer. In the Conan film, James Earl Jones plays Thulsa Doom, but Thulsa Doom is a character from Cole. We discovered that he's actually a lot more like Skeletor than James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones's Thulsa Doom was more akin to Thoth Amon.
People get the idea that Thoth Amon is like the sort of Moriarty to Conan, but he only shows up in like this story and God of the Bowl, and that's it. And we are sort of set up for this great multi-stage challenge. I mean, Moriarty also only shows up in 2 stories, but at least Holmes makes a big deal out of him and says, this is my nemesis who I've detected with my detecting and spent months trying to thwart, and I'm barely able to keep ahead of him. Whereas Conan, I don't think in this story, spoiler, he doesn't meet Thoth Amon. He doesn't even know Thoth Amon exists.
No. It turns out that this former noble, Escalante, has been working with the Rebel Four.
These rebels are Dion, Baron of Attalus, who is to be the new ruler of Aquilonia once Conan is overthrown by this plot they're hatching, and he's referred to as the Fat Baron. We've got Volmana, Count of Caraban, who's described as dwarfish. There is Grommel, commander of the Black Legion, who wants command of all the armies and is described as giant. Finally, in the 4, there is Rinaldo, the famous poet. Escalante described him as the harebrained minstrel. They all want Conan out of the picture, and they think that Escalante is working for them in this plot, although he is actually pulling the strings.
Escalante and the Rebel Four have been planning this revolt for months, but he is going to double-cross Dion and make himself the new king.
Escalante has also been sending the Picts from the borderlands a bunch of really strong booze, which has maddened them, so they are wreaking havoc on the frontiers and need to be contained. It's a little like the Scottish recently descending on Boston and Providence for the World Cup.
It is more like those Westerns, because that was always the riff on the bad guy in the Western, is he's the one been selling the firewater to the noble Apache or the Sioux or whoever right outside the fort. And everything's normally cool because they're listening to Jimmy Stewart or whoever. But some bad guys have been getting them head up with that firewater. So this is just Howard doing a Western. But he's doing a Western in pretend medieval times, which is what makes it even more fun.
Escalante has arranged that a bunch of the Imperial Guard will be on a diplomatic mission so that Conan's defenses will be spread thin. Conan will only have his personal guard, but one of them, unfortunately, is debt-ridden, and for a bribe, he is going to let some guys slip into Conan's bedchamber at midnight.
That's the plan. They're going to wait until Conan's in his room with his headphones on, reading his magazines, oblivious, and then sneak in and give him a royal stabbing.
Well, a royal stabbing will occur, as with a royal strangling.
That's right.
You don't know who's going to give who a stabbing.
Thoth-Amon, right now, is doing the bidding of Escalante under duress, and we find out that Thoth-Amon lost his magic ring, and his magic abilities are greatly diminished.
At some point in the past, he had to become a slave to Escalante to spare his own life, so he's fallen quite a bit in the world. This is 1932. It's a few years before Tolkien publishes The Hobbit. Howard is doing sword and sorcery, and he's got magic rings in here.
Yeah.
You think Tolkien ripped him off?
Well, I think that both Tolkien and Howard read The Ring of the Nibelungs, which is where they both get the idea, I bet. Howard's like, well, what if this magic ring was for the bad guy instead of the good guy? And so it's wild. And I guess we'll get into it a little more later, but the people who are really proactive in this story are all the bad guys. Conan's just hanging out.
Yeah.
Normally we see him, reaving and trampling a jeweled throne now and again, but now he's just vibing, as you say. But no, this is from everyone having read either Norse myth or heard Wagner or read popularizations. Everyone loves a good magic ring. But they mostly love a magic ring that brings you trouble when you find it.
Escalante has had Thoth-Amon go and watch over Dion because he's afraid Dion is going to lose his nerve and just ruin the whole plot. And that gets us into chapter 2, where Conan is caught up in some paperwork, but he looks out of place doing it.
He seemed more a part of the sun and winds and high places of the outlands. His slightest movement spoke of steel spring muscles, knit to a keen brain with the coordination of a born fighting man. There was nothing deliberate or measured about his actions. Either he was perfectly at rest, still as a bronze statue, or else he was in motion. Not with the jerky quickness of over-tense nerves, but with a cat-like speed that blurred the sight which tried to follow him.
Cat-like! Yes! In this scene, Conan has a little chat with his knight and main confidant, Prospero.
It's fascinating that our first look at Conan, in all of his series of stories, it's not him stepping out of the shadows after a bit of sword-swinging action, but he's at his desk doing paperwork. It's just like Ken said. I mean, why choose this way to introduce Conan the Barbarian?
This is the fun thing. I mean, I read some commentaries on this story before coming on. Everyone says, yeah, if you ask 1,000 people, what is Conan doing in the first scene we meet him, 999 of them would not say drawing a map, which is what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is he dressed? Oh, he's wearing, his fur loincloth. No, he's wearing simple robes and a cloth of silver circlet. Nothing Conan-y is going on with Conan. And I guess that is because, even though we're sort of hinted at the beginning, but I think we're supposed to, as the audience, go, oh man, now they've got John Wick mad.
Right, yeah.
He's sort of just a nothing. He's just a king. And then all of a sudden, I feel like I'm surprising no one, but he's going to turn out to be very good at killing people.
Right, yeah. The Western context is really making me rethink this, too. He's sort of like Clint Eastwood at the beginning of Unforgiven, too, right? Like, I've settled my life. That's behind me.
Gary Cooper's at the bar. He doesn't want any trouble. He's just hanging out.
Yeah.
Wearing his white hat.
Conan is actually, he's bummed out because when he took over, folks were way into him, but now they treat him like Herbert Hoover. Prospero says that This is because the poet Ronaldo is dropping all these sick burns on him, and he thinks that he should have Ronaldo killed. But Conan says no.
Conan knows it's a bad idea to take on the satirists. That would be the mark of a bad ruler. This is one of my favorite parts of the story, because with a good Conan tale, what I've learned to want is a little bit of philosophy or social commentary, followed by a monster, and then some ass kicking.
Yeah.
And this one really sets that template. When Prospero says he wants to hang the poet, Conan shook his lion head in response. It says, "No, Prospero, he's beyond my reach. A great poet is greater than any king. His songs are mightier than my scepter, for he has near ripped the heart from my breast when he chose to sing for me. I shall die and be forgotten, but Ronaldo's songs will live forever." Conan also laments how Numenides has been sort of rehabilitated in the public eye because of these poems. He's like Caesar being rehabilitated by the speech of Mark Antony. He laments how fickle the public is. You know, they were so happy when he overthrew the king and was a tyrant that they overlooked Conan being a foreigner. But now they cry about how great Numenides was, forget all of his misdeeds, and they don't trust Conan. They have the memory of goldfish. It's that cycle of establishment being replaced by the insurgent, and then the insurgent becoming the establishment.
The cycle it very much rhymes. It isn't, I don't think, taken from, but it rhymes with the sort of Norse myth. You begin as the hero, and then you become the king. Everything bad that you were trying to solve is happening maybe because of you, certainly despite you. And the endless struggle part of Norse and Icelandic myth is built into it. And then also, I think we are getting a little bit of Robert E. Howard saying, well, I can't be king of Texas, but I can be writer of Texas.
Right.
And who's going to live forever? Not the governor, not that jerk.
I didn't see it.
So
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't say it's universal, but generally, when you're reading something about how great writers are, the thing to keep in mind is a writer wrote that.
I thought the same. Yeah, I thought that's the thing you miss in the adaptations of these stories is that voice right there, that anger that comes from the author that pops out here and there, and that's what I really love about reading the original short stories.
Lovecraft, after Howard died, said that the thing that made Conan great was that it had so much of Robert E. Howard in him, that Robert E. Howard looks out at you through his characters. And a lot of times that's the mark of a bad character, a self-insert, but it's also, you want a piece of art that only a given artist could create and could only create in their voice. And that's why great art like that of Ronaldo lives forever. And why Conan, along with Sherlock Holmes, and intriguingly, unlike any of Lovecraft's characters, is just going to go on forever because it has that personal quality to it. And Lovecraft sadly put all of his personal qualities into the scenery, which of course is now why that's living forever.
Oh, who can forget that famous Wilbur Whateley wit?
That's right. The smooth facility with which Albert Wilmarth navigates the world and its challenges.
Prospero is heading out with the Imperial escort to Numidia that night, and Conan wishes that he could go with and kick all this boring stuff to the curb. And that gets us into chapter 3.
We cut to Dion, the fat baron, clutching his pearls about this plot in the garden, just like Escalante thought he would be. And Thothemon has arrived as bidden and is trying to calm him down. Thothemon decides, good time to give him my backstory.
He explains that he was once part of the royal court of Stygia, where he quickly became the favorite sorcerer of the king. The other sorcerers, they didn't like that, and they feared Thothemon because of his magic ring, the serpent ring of Set. The ring was found in a tomb and is capable of summoning things from the outside.
Sort of represents the Lovecraft circle, as well as that cycle of insurgency and establishment, I was thinking. It's doing a lot of work in this story, that ring.
The other thing that is going on is this sort of very economical painting of Thothemon's character. Again, reading this story first, you would absolutely believe this is going to be a series of cat and also cat stories. Conan versus Thothemon.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't become that. But the level to which we get Thothemon, sort of this perfect villain, a brew of resentment and bragging. I'm an outsider and I'm mad at the rest of the world, how he sort of mirrors Conan in that way. It's so great. And again, it's the act of a child to wish for more Thothamon, but I wish for more Thothamon, dang it.
He's so angry because he's not being recognized for how powerful or talented he really is.
Yep.
And instead he has to work for fools. And
Speaking of the writer's voice showing up.
well, right, exactly. He was bragging himself up with Ronaldo, and with Thothamon, I feel like he's really expressing resentment. And Dion here really demonstrates what a fool he is, because he's just not listening when he gives his story, because he's just a slave who's telling it.
Thothamon goes on to explain that he got sloppy back in the day and his ring was stolen, and that diminished his power, and he feared the other sorcerers were going to take their shot at him now that he didn't have this ring, so he snuck off pretending to be a camel driver. While traveling to Koth, Thothamon's caravan was attacked by Escalante and his crew. Only by showing his usefulness as a sorcerer was he able to get Escalante to spare him. The mention of the ring makes Dion think about his own magic ring, his ring of fortune that he has, and he says, I should wear that because I need all the luck I can get before this thing kicks off here.
It's this trinket that he received, and he just threw it in with the rest of his hoard. He doesn't even know about its significance.
He has a junk drawer.
Yeah.
The line, lifting a secret lid in the marble seat, so it's like under his chair. He fumbles for a moment amongst a heap of gewgaws, barbaric charms, bits of bones, pieces of tawdry jewelry, luck pieces, and conjures, which the man's superstitious nature had prompted him to collect. So you can just imagine him running through the rabbit's foots and the lucky coins and all the other garbage. It's like he's got just sort of like the top shelf of some occult bookshop, and he's got it in his chair.
That's what I thought about this. I thought about the cursed items shop immediately. I was like, if this ring is so powerful, what other Friday the 13th series collection of things does he just have in this piano bench?
I got an Annabelle doll. I've got...
When he pulls out this, what he calls the Ring of Fortune, Thothamon recognizes it, and it is the serpent ring.
My ring! He whispered in terrible exultation. My power!
Not even thinking about talking it over, Thothamon just stabs Dion and kills him dead.
He should have listened to the slave's story. He would have known that he had something valuable, but he just got stabbed.
Yep, that's what happens. You don't listen to backstory, you're stabbed. Once more, the voice of the writer coming through.
Now with his ring back and his power restored, Thothamon is ready for some revenge. He uses the ring to summon something.
Blind your eyes, mystic serpent, he chanted in a blood-freezing whisper. Blind your eyes to the moonlight and open them on darker gulfs. What do you see, O serpent of Set? Whom do you call from the gulfs of night?
His voice sank still lower as he whispered dark names and grisly incantations forgotten the world over, save in the grim hinterlands of dark Stygia, where monstrous shapes move in the dusk of the tombs. There was a movement in the air about him, such a swirl as is made in water when some creature rises to the surface. A nameless, freezing wind blew on him briefly, as if from an opened door. Thoth felt a presence at his back, but he did not look about. He kept his eyes fixed on the moonlit space of marble, on which a tenuous shadow hovered. As he continued his whispered incantations, this shadow grew in size and clarity, until it stood out distinct and horrific. Its outline was not unlike that of a gigantic baboon, but no such baboon ever walked the earth, not even in Stygia. Still, Thoth did not look, but drawing from his girdle a sandal of his master, always carried in the dim hope that he might be able to put it to such use, he cast it behind him.
No such baboon ever walked the earth. This is a homing baboon. Give it a sandal and it goes after the owner.
Yeah.
Hunt him down and kill him, Thothamon commands the beast.
I love the idea that he is just walking around with a sandal in his girdle all the time.
This is just the Thothamon difference. It's why he's the best. The hilarious I don't even know. Howard probably does intend this, but I love the contrast. Dion has the most powerful magic artifact in the world. He keeps it in his junk drawer. Thothamon has a shoe, which he keeps always about him just in case he needs it.
Yeah.
Just in case he meets the right monstrous bloodhound, he wants to be ready. That's the Thothamon difference.
Yep.
If you read this story in the original Weird Tales, there's an illustration of this beast menacing Conan. I'll link out. It's kind of amusing because it really looks more like a misunderstanding than an action scene. The monster's a little like, hey, wait, man, I think maybe we could work this out.
Well, he's been summoned to kill an entirely different dude, and suddenly there's this mighty thewed barbarian. He's like, whoa, just doing baboon business here, pal.
Oh, man, you know what? I think you're right. I think maybe the artist was putting that into the illustration. Here I am making fun of it, but it's actually a perfect encapsulation of what occurred there. This gets us into chapter 4, as well as into Conan's bedchamber.
Oh.
It's before midnight, and Conan is asleep and has a dream about entering the tomb of Epimetheus, the sage. Epimetheus has been dead for 1,500 years, but he once foretold that he would come back when Aquilonia was in a time of need. The old sage warns Conan that danger is coming. The old man spent all of his days fighting against the forces of Set and his followers, and now they are coming for Conan. Epimetheus asks Conan to hold out his sword, and the old man magically carves a symbol on Conan's crossguard. Conan then wakes up in bed, but his sword is in his hand, and he sees that the sword has been altered and now bears the image of the phoenix.
He also thinks he hears someone out in the hall as he wakes up, and he quietly starts putting on his armor. So we've had the social commentary, we've summoned a Lovecraftian monster. It's time for chapter 5, in which asses will be handed back to their owners. It's fight night in Conan's bedroom.
We cut to Ascalante, Volmana, Grommel, and Ronaldo, along with 16 hired dudes. They are sneaking around in Conan's palace, getting ready for their attack. The bribed guard has let them in, and Grommel breaks down the bedchamber door. They were planning on catching Conan off guard, but of course, Conan is not off guard.
If I was shooting this, Ascalante would look down, he'd see the Walkman on the ground. The weak sounds of Twisted Sister coming out of the headphones. He looks over, issues of Cosmo and Cat Fancy face down, discarded. He looks up, there's Conan zipping up the fly of his armor. Zip! Uh-oh, not what we thought was going to happen.
Not our idea of bedroom hijinks.
I love your understanding of how armor is made, Pfeiffer.
Yeah, you zip it up.
You zip it up.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't have it flapping around.
No, of course not.
come on.
No.
Zip.
Conan is in the middle of getting dressed for battle, but he's ready to throw down anyway.
In, rogues, yells Ascalante. He is 1 to 20, and he has no helmet.
Conan, because he's so awesome, he doesn't even recognize these guys. First, Grommel comes at Conan.
He came like a charging bull, head down, sword low for the disemboweling thrust. Conan sprang to meet him, and all his tigerish strength went into the arm that swung the sword. In a whistling arc, the great blade flashed through the air and crashed on the Bessonian's helmet. Blade and casque shivered together, and Grommel rolled lifeless on the floor. Conan bounded back, still gripping the broken hilt.
Oh, yes. Grommel's down, but Conan's sword is broke. Well, that's fine. He just picks up an axe.
Yep.
An old axe on the wall, right? It's something that hasn't been used in a long time.
Conan doesn't go on defense, it's offense all the way, baby. And he doesn't expect to win, but he knows that he's going to take as many of these guys down as he can.
Swords whined venomously about him, but death passed him by breathless margins. The Cimmerian moved in, a blur of blinding speed. He was like a tiger among baboons as he leaped, sidestepped, and spun, offering an ever-moving target, while his axe wove a shining wheel of death about him.
Now, I am here for a shining wheel of death 1,000% of times. But I feel like Howard maybe could have had a different animal than baboons.
Agreed.
We've always got the baboons on our mind because of the monster. Also, baboons are scrappy.
They are,
It should be like
yeah.
a tiger amongst jackals. Baboons are nothing to screw around with. Baboons nearly made us, human beings, extinct back in the day. They were our Thothamons back at the time.
Well, Conan gets hurt, but he's still taking down these dudes. And then Ronaldo removes his disguise and he cheers the assassins on as he moves in to strike Conan. And Conan could see that it's Ronaldo, whom he actually recognizes. He smashes him so hard that it breaks Ronaldo's sword.
He's trying to disarm him.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really want to kill him, right? He likes him too much.
Going after Ronaldo, the beloved poet makes the attackers angry and they rush in. Ronaldo comes back with a dagger and Conan still doesn't want to kill him.
You can't just stab a poet. That's for law enforcement in Elizabethan times to do.
That's true. That little bit of hesitation is all that it takes for Ronaldo to get that little stab in with a dagger before Conan kills him. The Conan in this climactic scene, fighting a horde of baddies with his spinning axe, taking him out left and right. That's the Conan we know in popular culture and from the Frazetta paintings. But I think the fun surprises in this initial story, or as we already said, we meet him first at the office, but also that we find out his major weakness is a love of the arts. Wouldn't have been first on my list.
I mean, that's part of the fun of Conan. We think of him as the barbarian, and he hates civilization. He loves what civilization makes, right? He loves wine. He loves poetry. He loves jewelry, but he doesn't love the decadence that surrounds all those things.
Yeah.
His notion is that once you've produced a great poet should sing about cool stuff. He shouldn't be upholding a bankrupt taxation system or whatever. And
right.
Sort of the irony being here again, that Ronaldo has the same sort of opinion, that he loves tales of heroism. That's why he writes songs about good old King Nemedides, but he doesn't like the current regime. In a way, Conan and Ronaldo are two arguing guys in the pages of, Partisan Review or something. They're both doing social commentary in their way.
I mean, even the presence of Ronaldo and the fact that he is chronicling the heroes that are also in the story, it introduces that concept that because he's a liar.
Yeah.
He spreads poems that are about how great the former ruler was when we know he wasn't great.
Yeah.
So that sort of indicts Howard as well, in that, you can't really believe what I'm writing either, that maybe this went out, the actual occurrence was different.
But Ronaldo's the only guy in the plot who's there for ideological reasons. He's the only one who's actually there to overthrow a barbarian and a foreigner. Everyone else is just in it to get, goodies and power.
That's true.
Ronaldo is just like, no, I just want things to be like they were when I was young. That's his ethos. Yeah. And that, again, makes him a pure spirit in the same way that Conan is.
And the fact that he's in here, I mean, the concept of what is a hero, it's a question that you ask when the chronicler is present in the story as well. Again, I'm thinking of Unforgiven, where the writer is also a main character in there. Mm-hmm. You can't have a hero unless you hear about them. And it's interesting that Conan is always wrapped up in that. If you see the movie, the chronicler of Conan introduces the film and shows up as a character halfway through as well. You can't really have the hero without the writer in a way.
Right, yeah.
Well, Conan, he continues to rage, taking down 9 men, but is pretty messed up and losing a lot of blood. He's backed into a corner.
Conan sensed their uncertainty and grinned mirthlessly and ferociously. "Who dies first?" he mumbled through smashed and bloody lips.
Escalante steps in and is about to give the killing blow when cries of terror come from behind. It's that monster that Thoth-Amon has summoned. But Escalante, he don't care about no monster. He wants Conan dead.
But even as he began his charge, there was a strange rushing in the air, and a heavy weight struck terrifically between his shoulders. He was dashed headlong, and great talons sank agonizingly in his flesh. Writhing desperately beneath his attacker, he twisted his head about and stared into the face of nightmare and lunacy. Upon him crouched a great black thing which he knew was born in no sane or human world. Its slavering black fangs were near his throat, and the glare of its yellow eyes shriveled his limbs as a killing wind shrivels young corn. The hideousness of its face transcended mere bestiality. It might have been the face of an ancient evil mummy, quickened with demoniac life. In those abhorrent features, the outlaw's dilated eyes seemed to see, like a shadow in the madness that enveloped him, a faint and terrible resemblance to the slave Thoth-Amon. Then Ascalante's cynical and all-sufficient philosophy deserted him, and with a ghastly cry, he gave up the ghost before those slavering fangs touched him.
Escalante doesn't die by the claws or the teeth. He dies of fear.
Yes.
Note the difference, and here we are. Escalante has been the protagonist through this whole thing. He's set the whole plan in motion. You can tell that he's the guy that, made sure that Dion stayed on side and figured out something to do with Grommel and kept Ronaldo sweet. And now none of that helps because he is thinking too much. And his philosophy deserts him, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
You can't be philosophical, and that's the difference between Conan and Kull, fundamentally, right? Conan is not, he's smart, he's clever, he's wise even, but he ain't a philosopher, and that is the difference. And that's why when he sees a giant mummy baboon ghost, he throws an axe at it instead of dying of fear.
Yeah. Well, if I were me, I would hightail it up there when that monster is busy with Escalante. But no, Conan, he goes after this thing while he's bleeding out. He decides he's going to fight a demon. But when he throws that axe, it bounces off the skull of the beast, and the beast leaps on Conan, about to bite. It just stares into his eyes.
Conan felt his soul shrivel and begin to be drawn out of his body, to drown in the yellow wells of cosmic horror which glimmered spectrally in the formless chaos that was growing about him and engulfing all life and sanity. Those eyes grew and became gigantic, and in them the Cimmerian glimpsed the reality of all the abysmal and blasphemous horrors that lurk in the outer darkness of formless voids and nighted gulfs. He opened his bloody lips to shriek his hate and loathing, but only a dry rattle burst from his throat.
This horror that scared Escalante to death, it's not working on Conan. It scares him a lot, but it scares him into frenzied action. Yeah!
And here's the money line. With a volcanic wrench of his whole body, he plunged backward, heedless of the agony of his torn arm, dragging the monster bodily with him. And his outflung hand struck something his dazed fighting brain recognized as the hilt of his broken sword. Instinctively, he gripped it and struck with all the power of nerve and thew as a man stabs with a dagger.
This is where I think maybe you said it's about to bite but doesn't. It does bite. It bites him in the arm.
Oh, right, yes.
And so that's how he can drag it by its own teeth across the room.
You're right.
Because Conan is that baller.
He's so tough.
Yeah.
Now, we can't forget that the sword bears the mark of the phoenix.
Yep.
And then Conan plunges it into the beast, and it kills it.
It starts kind of dissolving video game style.
Yes. Finally, Conan's guards arrive. They summon the royal physicians to attend his wounds. One of Conan's guards asks Conan about the mangled corpse of Escalante and why there's such a look of horror on the body's face. Just as Conan is about to explain, he notices the body of the demon is gone. It's disappeared. Conan tries to tell them, but everyone thinks that he's delirious because he's so messed up. So he begins explaining about his dream, about Epimetheus and the sword, but the high priest of Mitra says that the tomb of Epimetheus is lost and no one has been able to find it since his death over 1,500 years ago. No one but the inner circle of acolytes knows about this. Conan shows them his phoenix sword as proof. The high priest changes his tune and is like, yep, Conan saw Epimetheus. Just then, someone asks for them to shine a light on where the demon was slain, and we end with this.
It lay in the shade of a broken screen. They threw the screen aside and bathed the floor in a flood of candlelight. And a shuddering silence fell over the people as they looked. Then some fell on their knees, calling on Mitra, and some fled screaming from the chamber. There on the floor where the monster had died, there lay like a tangible shadow, a broad, dark stain that could not be washed out. The thing had left its outline clearly etched in its blood, and that outline was of no being of a sane and normal world. Grim and horrific, it brooded there, like the shadow cast by one of the apish gods that squat on the shadowy altars of dim temples in the dark land of Stygia.
And that's the end of the story.
Yeah!
Haters, not no one here on this podcast, haters will say, well, that was awfully lucky. Everyone in the story just got lucky. No actual cool action happens. Thothamon is just lucky that dumb, stupid Dion has his ring in his junk drawer, and he's lucky that when he says ring in his narration, Dion is like, picks that one word out of slave babble and says, oh yeah, I have a ring, I should wear it. And then Conan is lucky that the demon shows up and munches down on Escalante and saves Conan's bacon, right? Everyone is lucky, right?
Yeah.
And what's going on in the story is the opposite of that. We talked about Norse myth before. This is about fate. This is about weird, right? Epimetheus says, I am here because I've seen there's a disturbance in the shadows, and so I'm here to save Aquilonia by putting the phoenix on your sword, Conan. You'll be cool from there. What causes the disturbance in the shadows? That obviously is Thothamon getting the ring back and waking up this monster that wakes up Epimetheus, which wakes up Conan. So that whole half of it isn't luck. It's ripples from this pond. So the next question is, who is the active player in Thothamon's story? And the active player is, and I think this is where our Tolkien parallels get even better. The player is the ring, right?
Yeah.
Just like the ring sort of makes its way back to Sauron ever so slowly. Here we have the ring is sort of like making things happen so that Ascalante captures Thothamon. And also, at the same time, Dion buys this junk ring from the old dealer, the old curio dealer who sells him the Mogwai and the other stuff.
Right.
All of this is the ring bringing itself back to Thothamon so that it can fulfill its fate to destroy Aquilonia. Because remember, Epimetheus says, I've seen that this is fated. This is going to happen. Set is going to show up and mess everything up. And I, Epimetheus, who stopped him 1,500 years ago, not that anyone gives me thanks, not that there's cool stories about Epimetheus the Sage. Where's my Ronaldo?
Yeah.
But Epimetheus is called back by this very action. So this whole thing is really a callback to the Norse and Germanic concept of fate, of weird, of this is what's going to happen. And that's why the beginning with the sort of historical chronicle, I think, really echoes so strongly throughout this story, because this is history. It's been written down. It's going to happen. This inevitability that reads maybe even to the people involved in it as just dumb luck can read to us who have got the necessary perspective, thanks to Ronaldo / Robert E. Howard. We see that it is in fact the workings of fate and destiny, and that makes the story better than two guys get lucky, baboon demon loses, which is a surface reading of it. And I think that's yet another thing that is so great about the story. And that's why I think Farnsworth Wright read it and he said, all right, cut out the part where Conan endlessly explains the map to Prospero. That's going to bore everyone. Cut out the whole opening, cut that way back. And the rest of the story is amazing. Not a day goes by that Farnsworth Wright didn't pat himself on the back for discovering Robert E. Howard. But I think that is what Wright saw in this story when he sends back Frost Giant's daughter. He says, I don't like Frost Giant's daughter. That's just an anecdote. It's not a real story. But this has got promise. And that is why it has that promise, is because of this echoing of inevitable fate, which again, Chad, could be symbolized by what common article of jewelry? A ring. That's
Perhaps
right.
A ring.
Yes.
And that scene in particular didn't bother me so much either, because it represented this nobleman not paying attention to that story enough to know that he had the very ring, and then just to pull it out at that time and give it to the worst person to give it to just highlighted a societal ill of people being so myopic because of their position and their lofty power that they don't see the things that can destroy their whole civilization right underneath their nose.
Yeah, true that.
I thought that was such an interesting thing as well. But I didn't think about the ring working its way back to him. That's such a cool... You know what? That's the Thothamon difference.
That is. And maybe that's what the ring is Thothamon is like, great, we're going to fight Conan throughout. And the ring's like, we are not.
Right.
I am going to lead you to do other stuff in a whole bunch of different stories, maybe by, I don't know, David Drake or somebody.
Yeah.
We're going to do a David Drake story next week. We're going to do The Barrow Troll by David Drake.
Such a classic.
Yeah, great story. I just recently read it for the first time and I really loved it. So look out for that next week. This has been a supersized episode. We're so glad to have you on, Ken. You bring so much insight and wisdom, and I just want folks to know, Chris and I have notes that we prepare for ourselves. Ken's just saying the stuff off the top of his head.
It's crazy.
The top of his head. My hands have been in view the whole time. No jiggery pokery. No secretly sneaking a peek at Wikipedia like I might do on some other podcast.
No, God, no.
Not on this one.
Do that.
Not in the sacred precincts of strange stories.
No, please do not. But please do go check out Ken and Robin talk about stuff. It's such a great show. And if you like the wisdom that you're hearing here, you can get a whole lot more of it there. And about all sorts of topics, not just Weird Tales authors. You can get it about pop culture, about movies, all sorts of things you can learn about, and Ken and Robin talk about stuff. So please check it out. I also want to encourage folks to please go over to our Backer Kit page where you can sign up to get updates on our upcoming role-playing game. crowdfunding campaign. And I finally wanted to mention, since we're covering Robert E. Howard, our old friend and collaborator Reber Clark will soon be releasing a project that our listeners might be enthusiastic about.
Hey!
This is The Poetry of Robert E. Howard, which will be released on reberclark.bandcamp.com as a download or CD release. Something Reber's wanted to do for a long time, but the rights were all mixed up. He finally received permission to use these poems. I believe there's 7 of the poems total. I read one of them.
Oh.
Andrew Lehman reads one. Sean Branney reads one,
Nice.
among other luminaries. And of course, the real star is Reber's scoring, which accompanies each poem. I've gotten to hear a little of it. It's awesome. So folks are going to want to check that out. We'll promote it when it releases. I'll link out to Reber's Bandcamp today if you want to follow him for more news. And finally, thank you again to Travis Bedard, our reader. He's a lovely person with a lovely voice. He just absolutely killed it on this episode. We threw a lot at him, and he knocked it out of the park as always.
And I want to thank our patrons. I'd like to thank Sinister, Rasmus Danielson, Ewan Colling, James Stevens, and Richard Murray.
I'd like to thank Uncle Charles, Sean Logan, Aaron, Frank Espalet, and finally, Genevieve. And of course, our stakers who make these free shows possible. I'm talking about Bag of Weasels, Cryptocartographer Alistair Brooks, Continental Breakfast, Schmile Khan, Christopher Rosser, It's a Ghost, Kip Barnes, John Morgan, Angelina Brown, Eric Esvalone, MD, Richard Wolf, and Ben A. Thank you so much for making these free shows possible. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a good Independence Day here in the States. For now, I'm Chad Pfeiffer.
I'm Chris Lackey,
And I'm Ken Hite.
and you've been listening to
Strange Studies of Strange Stories.
Strange Studies of Strange Stories.